Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Character Corner. It's been a while, hasn't it? But we're back finally, and in the build-up for Smash for Switch, we're going to be going over all the series, starting with Super Mario. Now, this one's a big one, the big mascot of Nintendo, and joining me today is the Wolfman.
Hello, happy to be here.
And we're going to try and cover all of the big ones, all the obvious ones, maybe some out of their choices, or we're trying to get at least all the ones that I think are popular enough or do stand a moderate chance, maybe, at being included in this game. So let's get
It's about possibilities.
Yeah. So let's get I guess the ones that probably all fans are clamoring for off the start by talking about Luigi's anti-nemesis, or not anti-nemesis, his nemesis, the antithesis of Luigi, and Wario's confusing brother, Waluigi.
Or cousin.
Or some guy who likes to dress up with him that he pulled off the street. It's unclear at this point.
It's a cosplay gang.
Yeah.
They're an evil cosplay gang. So Waluigi, obviously, he is a popular, well-liked character in the series. Or maybe he's not. It seems sort of weird and very dependent on the year or even like the weather for whether he's beloved, hated, or hated to be loved or loved to be hated. At the same time, he's clearly an icon, if only an icon, of spin-off Mario characters, which is sort of interesting because Smash really hasn't done that.
Yeah.
I guess this kind of leads to a main problem with the Mario series for future Smash games, which is that, like, we've kind of hit all the main characters, all the things that matter. It's kind of like Zelda. We've got the hero, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, and, we have side characters like Dr. Mario or Rosalina or Bowser Jr., but, those add to the game. But the problem is that we've kind of hit all of, like, the main platform characters. All of, like, the core of the Mario series has always been its platform games. And so, now if there are going to be future Mario characters, we're going to have to start drawing from spin-offs or from secondary sources. And we kind of already have with Bowser Jr. and Rosalina. Waluigi is an interesting choice then, because he essentially represents Mario spin-offs in their entirety. He's the party character, the sports character, the kart character, but he wouldn't be really representing things beyond that. In that sense, he's kind of an interesting character, but I'm not sure if he has enough, of a core to work, or a uniqueness.
Well, Sakurai clearly acknowledges how popular he is. I mean, he's been included as an assist trophy twice, in reference to his Mario Tennis form, and he's had plenty of pictures of the day and stuff like that. And he's one of them characters like Ridley that Sakurai knows people want to see. And I think I personally, at least for an enhanced port, as Waluigi's an assist trophy, and I don't think they're going to upgrade assist trophies, I think his chances are slim.
Yeah.
But I guess, well, if it's a brand new game, then that's different. But I still, I'm honestly in the ballpark that I don't see Waluigi happening. But it'd be an interesting idea and inclusion, because you're right, he does represent the spin-off series more so than any other character. He originated in a spin-off series, which most other big characters haven't done so far.
Yeah, I'm going to keep talking about Waluigi, but I think there's one thing that I kind of want to add to this with some of the other characters we have on this list, particularly Daisy, which is that one of the problems I see with adding these spin-off characters is that who do you pick? Like, do you pick Waluigi because he's sort of the character who represents those? Do you pick Daisy because she's a character who sort of represents those? Do you pick Toad because he's that, but he also has more of a presence throughout the rest of the series? Like, I think Waluigi probably has the best chance of all of them, if only because he's got such an outsized and over-the-top personality.
Yeah. I have my own disagreements slightly on that, but
Okay.
I do think that each of these characters can represent their own specific part of the
The
Mario
spin-offs.
spin-offs. Yeah. So I think,
Okay.
in my personal opinion, I think that Waluigi, with his goofy personality and stuff, and how like he's very different in tone to Mario and Luigi and Wario, that I think
Yeah.
he'd work with this kind of crazy out of their moveset idea that might work akin to the Mario Party series. My only thing against that is that because he originated in a sports title, and so far every time Sakurai has included him has been based around sports, I think that
Yeah.
if Waluigi was to get into the game, his focus would be on that, would be on the sports titles, or would be on the general spin off. But I think Daisy, who's the next character on our list, I think she fits the sports characters more, but she's hampered by the fact that she originated in Super Mario Land. Because I think in looking at what Sakurai likes to do a lot is, unless a character has its own presence, like its own unique series, he likes to take a look at what did this character get born for, what is this character known for, and with Waluigi,
Yeah.
it's the spin-offs. Unlike with Daisy, where she was originally the Princess Peach character. That's why I think so many people see Daisy as a potential Peach clone, even though she doesn't need to be, because originally she was just a Peach
A Peach
replacement.
clone.
Yeah, a Peach clone.
Like, it's kind of like how with Luigi, you could come up with a super unique moveset for him, and he's already really unique on his own. But it'd be kind of weird if the Mario brothers didn't, fight like brothers.
Yeah, especially as Luigi is always player two. And so rather than give him a Luigi's Mansion based moveset, it was better for him to play somewhat similar to Mario, because that's what he does in most of his games. And
Yeah,
while Daisy
there's
isn't just always she isn't the damsel in distress in basically any game except for one, unlike Peach. That was what her premise was originally.
Yeah, and the other thing being that just like is say Mario Soccer or is Mario Golf or whatever, like are those exciting enough to be put in on their own? Like Waluigi, if he's getting in, it's not to represent Mario Tennis, it's because he's Waluigi and he comes in on his own. And similarly, I think that's a problem Daisy faces, is I don't know if she's and I am trying to say this as
Nicely
uh,
as possible.
yeah, because people should like whoever they like, but I'm not sure if Daisy has enough of that outsized personality to kind of get in just for herself. I think she would need to represent something else, and I'm not sure that any individual sports game or all of them necessarily do that, especially since Mario has been kind of lowballing the spin-off titles, or at least the non-platform spin-off titles.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I do agree with you on that. Although I would like to see Daisy appear at some point, and I think she could have a different moveset to Peach. With
yeah,
all the issues she faces, especially being somewhat overshadowed by Waluigi, in most cases as the spin-off king, she really needs something else that will draw people to her and make her part of it. That's kind of what Rosalina had over Daisy. That even though she was newer, she had the whole subset under the main Mario series, the Galaxy games, was being made playable in a mainstream Mario game, and was like the big focus of the time. That she was like a much better inclusion than Daisy,
well, it's also
unfortunately.
more things. Like Rosalina has a lot of other elements to her. Like she represents this, or not represents, but she has this fundamentally unique gameplay system and kind of feature that works dramatically differently than any other character in the series, but one that's also kind of easy to understand if hard to actually master.
Mm.
So, like, she represents this beloved and very popular two-game subseries, but she also represents this unique gameplay feature, and she also has a style is stylistically a little different from the other characters. So she actually she brings a lot to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the concern that people would have about spin-off characters is how much they add. I think Waluigi gets around that just because he has this crazy personality. I don't think Daisy does as much. but both of them kind of struggle because I think people will try to like give them these very dramatically unique movesets, but not one that's really based around a particularly interesting core. Like, to further that Luigi thing we were talking about earlier, you can give a character all these unique moves, but unless the character has an interesting core, they're probably not going to get in, just because you can't build something around it. Because generally, like, Nintendo games are always based around this, like, one big idea that's sort of iterated on and expanded upon. And Smash kind of works the same way. Every character has this core, and the rest of the game and their moveset is bringing that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Pikachu, I agree.
Yeah, like Pikachu is the fast character. Like, it's all about, like, speed and tricky movements and using these powerful attacks, but also trying to use these weak attacks in conjunction. So it uses all of these unique moves to try to get at that. You can't really play Pikachu as a tank, even if you gave it, like, super defensive stats. So I think that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, I see exactly that point, and it's something that they would need to overcome. Daisy in particular needs something particularly unique about her to be brought in via the Mario series, whether it be a spin-off, and needs to be big enough that it warrants her inclusion over some other characters. But I'm going to want to move on from these two.
Because there's actually one character who does get that really well.
Yes.
And that's Paper Mario.
That wasn't the character I was going to say, but we'll go on to Paper Mario. Because you're right.
Because here's the thing. The Paper Mario series, it's a unique, beloved, visually splendorous sub-series. It looks great, it plays, depending on the Paper Mario game. But it's, well-liked and well-loved. And Paper Mario himself has become a unique character, this sort of its own little world. And I think this is where Paper Mario shines in comparison to all the other characters, and why I think he's probably as close to a frontrunner as Mario has now. Mm-hmm. He's unique, not just in terms of gameplay, but just because of his visual design. You can't have him be a clone of Mario, but you also can't really have him fight in a way that any other character could fight like. He could have paper attacks and hammer attacks and partners and stickers and swapping 2D to 3D, but you kind of have something all based around this, like, visual idea of a Paper Mario.
Yes, Paper Mario does have that definite benefit that, unlike every other Mario character, his entire being is essentially something different. The fact that he is made of paper opens up the possibilities for tons of moveset potential based around the whole paper mechanic, and it makes him only comparable, really, to a character like Game & Watch, who is also flat, but unlike that, is more about electronics and, clunky movement than Paper Mario's origami-style paper-based attacks. And with the addition of stuff like things in the latest one, bringing in that strange realism, you have this odd mismatch that would work really well in a moveset, I think. And as the Paper Mario series is one of the big ones it's basically the front runner for the RPG series, because the only other long-running RPG series from Mario has been the Mario and Luigi ones, and they've both already been included in the game. And while I do think there is a character that could harness the Mario and Luigi moveset, I honestly think it's a Yoshi character and not a Mario one, so we won't talk about it here. We'll save that for whenever Yoshi Character Corner comes up. But for now, with Paper Mario being the headliner of the RPG series, having such a unique mechanic, and the Paper Mario series is still round and relevant. I mean, Color Splash only just came out, which is more than you can say about the last Mario Land game or the last
Dance Dance Revolution, Mario Next, where Waluigi was the main villain.
Yes, exactly.
Here's one thing I just want to get out of the way is there are people who will not like Paper Mario because he's a third Mario. And not just because they're concerned about clones, because there's no way he would realistically be a clone, but just because, we have a Mario and a Dr. Mario, and in Mario Kart we have Baby Mario, and Metal Mario, but I think Paper Mario is fine. I don't think any other paper character would work, because the whole thing with Paper Mario is it's based around Mario as paper. It's kind of like how the Mario and Luigi games are all based around Mario and also Luigi at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is why it's harder for me to see a Mario and Luigi character. Paper Mario is basically the fulcrum, or like the sun around which everything else orbits in those games.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and I think Sakurai would see it in the same sort of light as how we've described it. That it's all based around Paper Mario and the fact that he is paper now, and
when we talk about stuff like Sakurai bias, we have to remember that that a lot of the time his biases are really about trying to get at this core, what's the core of Link? What's the core of Samus? And by extension, what's the core of Metroid? And so, I think that's why you have stages so many stages that are based on early levels in the game, because generally those early levels sort of represent what the game is. Like the Bridge of Elden represents this kind of how Twilight Princess tried to add these more elaborate action set pieces, or how Gower Plain allows you to see the Mechonis and the world of Xenoblade.
Yeah.
In that sense, Paper Mario is sort of like a character version of that.
Yeah, and I think it benefits Paper Mario that, unlike Dr. Mario, who it has to be a clone, as Sakurai has described him, because Mario and Dr. Mario are the same character. They can't have such different. Paper Mario is a different character to Mario now. He's not just when the first Paper Mario started, it was easy to just say this was a visual change. But in recent years, they've officially established that the Mario from Paper Mario and the one from the main games are two separate entities. I mean, they even cross over in Mario and Luigi 5, where it's explained that the Paper Mario universe is just a parallel dimension through a book that they just happen to have in the castle. And Color Splash just goes with that by introducing the Koopalings in Color Splash and acting like no one has ever actually met them before. And because they haven't appeared in a previous Paper Mario game, despite the fact they've appeared in, obviously all the other main Mario games. So I think that makes them, although they're both called Mario, they are both unique and different enough that I don't think the addition of another Mario character or another Mario character is really that significant, and I don't think Sakurai would see it that way either.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine Sakurai being hung up on that.
Right. So Paper Mario is quite a big one, but I think there's another one who is just as equally big, at least in my eyes, and that one is Captain Toad.
Yeah.
Now,
we should also note for Captain Toad and later on Toad, both of us I think would agree that Toadette would have half the costumes.
Actually, I don't know if I 100% agree with that. Honestly, okay. I mean, I could see Toadette having one or two costumes in a similar way to how Zero Suit Samus had about two costumes that were, different from the rest. But
I've seen her more as Alf.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I wonder whether or not. I mean, it could happen, but I'm thinking more like you have the Captain Toad outfit, and then the other half of the outfits is what Toad usually looks like. Not the Explorer outfit, but the more Arabian Nights style vest and puffy pants outfit. Toadette could be added in as you have two Captain Toad outfits, two Toadette outfits, and then whatever. But I feel like Toadette either wouldn't get added in or would be added in I mean, she could even be a clone if they really wanted to go that far. I mean, Alf was meant to be a clone. Well, Alf was meant to be a clone, and they just didn't have the time or those technical difficulties to prevent him, which is why he remained as an alt. But
I honestly wonder if Alf wasn't really just planned as an alt from the start, and when development time continued, they kind of buffed him up a little bit, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, he was planned as an alt from the start, but so was Lucina, Dr. Mario, and Dark Pit. But unlike those three who did manage to boost themselves up to playable status, I think technical limitations with the Pikmin and what would make Alf actually different enough got in the
Yeah.
way of making him a playable character. But we don't know the official reason. That's all just speculative. And
Yeah.
I mean, Toadette could just be a costume. She could end up being an alt, or she could just not be included at all. But I want to focus on why Toad would be a key character for this, Captain Toad. And I think Toads are generic nowadays, just NPC characters that appear all the time, and there's loads of different colors. But originally, back in from Super Mario Brothers 2, there was always the blue Toad that eventually became the red Toad that's now gone back to the blue Toad, because why not? That's always been the playable character. The Toads are always the ones that are added alongside Mario and Luigi in the new Super Mario Brothers series. Toad has always been that fourth character, alongside Mario, Luigi, and Peach, who's big enough that he's recognizable alongside them. And I think the only thing that's prevented him from being playable so far is the fact that Toads are pretty standard generic. They keep changing. There isn't really a main Toad, and it's not like the others where there is some sort of discernible gimmick, I guess you could use about him. I mean, he doesn't jump that high, and he's a fast runner, but he doesn't have any abilities outside of this. But in the past, apart from Super Mario Brothers 2, which Peach kind of absorbed into her moveset, with the turnips and flying.
Much better with that.
Yes, I agree. The only other game he had was Wario's Woods, a random spin-off puzzle game where his name's not even in the title, he just happens to be playable. But I think this changed recently with Captain Toad. Captain Toad was added as part of the main Mario series, which gives him that boost that sort of Rosalina had. And he's evolved to have his own sort of sub mini game in Super Mario 3D World, and then eventually his own game on the Wii U, with all his own host of gimmicks and attacks and all sorts to get around it. And I think that with that, there is a Toad with a bigger identity, and one that could potentially work with a unique idea and have a good core behind how his character might work. And because of that, I think Toad's chances have boosted exponentially from what it was back in 2012 when they were first planning this Smash Brothers game.
My main issue with Toad, who's a character I really like, I just should make clear, he used to be my favorite Mario Kart character until Shy Guy, is that you've talked about this, he's generic, but he's also not really, a character. His goal is basically to send the player further in the game. He's an assistant, so being Peach's B move kind of is perfect for him. Captain Toad gets around that a lot. Both because he's a character and because he actually does things and has moves. He's also a recent character, and I think it's important for Smash to represent not only its classic characters, but its newer ones, especially as they've kind of hit most of the classic characters and now have to be about where Nintendo is going and not just from where it came.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into the next character I had, because he kind of fits the exact same things that you just mentioned about being a new character, and that was Nabbit from New Super Mario Brothers U. Because since, just like with Rosalina and Captain Toad, they both were added into what is considered a core Mario platforming title, and since then have become somewhat of a mainstay. I mean, Nabbit hasn't had his Mario Kart debut yet, but he was playable in New Super Luigi U. He appears in the Mario and Luigi RPG series. He's in Mario, the sports games. He was in Mario Golf. He's and I think he's also in the Mario and Sonic games. Since his debut, he has been showing up more and more, and he is considered more as a character rather than just a generic Nabbit. I don't think there is a generic Nabbit enemy. There is just him. And he even already appeared in Smash as a stage hazard, which might ruin his chances of appearing in any kind of port. But a brand new game, they could easily have him in.
I mean, they could always do the D2D Toon Link thing where they remove him, but that still means that they would need to have an alternate version of Nabbit show up on Mushroom Kingdom U.
Yeah, because unlike with DDD and Toon Link, where it's like a background element, Nabbit is a like actual hazard in that stage, which makes him a lot harder to remove. But I see the only issue that Nabbit has is how his moveset might work. Because the only thing we've really seen him do is steal stuff and put things in his bag. But I think Sakurai has managed to make movesets work with characters with far less than that. So I don't see it as a big major thing. And if you really looked around, if you thought about what is Nabbit as a character, what is his core, he's this thief. He's this character who goes around stealing stuff. He's the sort of generic Japanese style thief with the bag over his shoulder and the bandana and stuff.
Do you think he could steal like stats, maybe?
Maybe. I think it would be something much more visible. Like, I mean, Villager's B move is like perfect for him. It's just a shame Villager already has it.
I think the problem though is that Villager like has a bunch of other stuff to get the idea of Animal Crossing is this, town where you build up and has all these different tools. It'd be like a villager whose entire moveset was based around Pocket.
Yeah, which is obviously a bit of a problematic for Nabbit. I think he needs something else, and I think the best way to do that is to see if he does show up playable in other stuff, because he's been playable in one major main game, and that's New Super Luigi U. But his gimmick in that was that he was immortal.
We're really stressing the what counts as a main game.
I think for me, it's anything that's a platformer, so a 2D or 3D platformer, I would consider a main title. Which New Super Luigi U is. I mean, it's kind of it could be considered DLC for New Super Mario Bros. U, or it could be considered a reimagining for the Year of Luigi. But it's still a New Super Mario Bros. Game at its core, and Nabbit is still the playable character in that. His only thing is that he is immortal, he can't be hurt, that's his gimmick, and in exchange he can't get power-ups. Whether you could relate that into something specific for Smash, I'm not 100% sure. Like, maybe he couldn't... you'd have to really work around that. Like, maybe the idea that he can't use items, but the more items he picks up, the stronger he gets because he puts them in his bag. The only issue with that is without items, he becomes useless.
Very bad.
So you have to find a workaway around that.
I think that's kind of the issue that I have with Nabbit, is that, and to a certain extent this also applies to Captain Toad, like, Nabbit's whole gimmick is based around the fact that he doesn't use items, and so because of that, he can't really do the New Super Mario Brothers representation by potentially using items. And similarly, Captain Toad, like, his gimmick is that he can't jump.
Yeah.
So you either have a character who has this elaborate AirSats jumping system, like he uses platforms or something, which could be really confusing and visually not that great to look at, or you remove like the central thing about the character.
Well, I think Captain Toad has a kind of workaround to the fact that Toads have never been known specifically for having good jumps. That's always been Toad's thing. He's the worst jumper of the bunch. But Captain Toad isn't meant to jump. This is a kind of a continuation of that, with the excuse being he has the backpack. But I think if Captain Toad's to get in, I think he wouldn't just represent the Captain Toad game, although that would obviously play a role. I think he would be the represent Toads in general throughout the whole series, and what it is that they like, what the Toads' focuses are and stuff like that, based around whatever central core gimmick he has. Whether that be something like the amount of stuff in his backpack makes him heavy, so he gets slower, but he's stronger. And then the less stuff he has, he's faster, like Toads are meant to be, but he's weaker. I mean, that's just one idea. But who knows how they want to go about tackling it in if he does get to appear in Smash. But I think for Nabbit's case, I don't think he's likely for any sort of, port. But it'd be interesting to see where in the future they take the character. Because if he starts showing up more and more like Rosaline does, I would consider him a higher priority than characters like Daisy and Waluigi and stuff in the future.
And I think there are a lot of times where people who are big fans of these characters will say, like, maybe it'll show up in the next one, but that's, like, we gotta wait and see.
Yeah, right.
Like, we can't. I don't think Sakurai is that comfortable with adding characters based on the potential that other developers who aren't him will use them in Nintendo games over which he has no oversight.
Yeah, right.
Okay, guys, I had to cut the video a bit short there. The main reason being that we talked for at least another good half an hour, and I was worried about the video being too long, so this is the perfect place to split it, as I think we've covered all the major Mario characters. So make sure you join in for the next episode of Character Corner, where we go over the more minor Mario characters. Now, I know we usually vote at the end of one of these Character Corners. I'll just save it for the next one, the final one, so we'll get through Mario. So while you're waiting for that, why don't you check out these other two Character Corners I'm going to link in the video. And make sure you subscribe and check out All Source Gaming on Twitter, or sourcegaming.info, our website, where we update regularly, usually twice a day, including videos and featured content and guest posts from other content creators. So make sure you check those out and stay tuned for the next edition of Character Corner Mario. Until then, guys, bye.